Lastly, the ending. How do you, what's a good ending? A good ending will actually be a bookend. So you end, I'm sorry, yeah, you end how you started. How could you write your paper so that way the immersive moment at the end is kind of reflected or echoed at the end? You use the final sentences to end any suspense and answer all questions the reader might have. You want to avoid using all in all. Well, that's just good advice, period. You use short, forceful sentences to end and keep the ending brief. Get right to the point. Don't address the committee or ask them to please admit you. Don't beg, right? That's off-putting. Okay, end on a strong note, a powerful, confident note. Some general advice for the format. You need to follow the word count. They're typically only 500 words. If you're 10 to 20 words over, it's okay. 50 to 100 words over is not okay, right? So stick distinctly to the word count. Be efficient with your word choice. Use strong word choice. Avoid overly wordy writing. I told you to use strong adjectives and adverbs and verbs. Don't use multiple adjectives, right? Use one adjective per noun, right? Use a strong verb. Maybe avoid adverbs altogether. Do not use any empty language. None. None at all, right? None of this, I'm going to tell you how I'm a great person, or I am a great person, right? That's all empty. Give us specifics. Use logical paragraph breaks. You do not need to use peel paragraphs in a personal statement. In fact, you shouldn't, but you still need a sense of paragraph use. Short sentences and short, powerful paragraphs work best for the college essay. Um, nothing too confusing, nothing too super long. Basically, you don't necessarily want to write another wit, right, or another literary analysis for your college essay. You don't want to do that at all. In fact, this is a chance for you to kind of violate some of those rules, right? You want to write shorter sentences. You want to be a little bit more powerful with what you're trying to say, okay? And you can kind of drop the formal register just a little bit, okay? Lastly, you need to submit an MLA format, double space, Times New Roman, 12-point font, okay? Some final topics and tips. So if you get an essay that you want to write about a personal relationship or influences from someone, many people choose this topic, right? And when they choose this topic, they choose to write about family members and best friends. A way to kind of make it individual or unique, consider writing about a teacher or a coach, an arch rival, a neighbor, someone unexpected, right? There are a lot of relationships in our lives that maybe on second glance they actually are super powerful, but they don't necessarily seem that way initially, right? So think about someone that has influenced you in maybe a more subtle way, and that would be a far more interesting essay than saying that your mom is your favorite person in the world. Okay. Essays about issues. So lots of students are going to write about social issues like the environment, drugs, crime, prejudice, and discrimination. It's actually a great way to write your paper. However, if you choose to write about one of these things, you need to be powerfully unique, right? There are going to be lots of students who are writing about moments of discrimination, moments of prejudice, moments of maybe having experience with drugs or just certain social issues and concerns. Be unique. Be interesting about it, right? Come at it from a totally different angle. You also don't want to be um, insulting, right? So you want to handle it gingerly with some sensitivity. Again, some general advice concerning word choice. You want to avoid these words and find better replacements. All of those words show up in essays all the time. Avoid slang, no text language. That one should go by. That should go without standing, without explanation. No crybaby words. So no maybes, no perhaps, no somewhat, it seems, rather. Remember, you're being confident, so your language needs to be confident. None of these phrases. No, I think, I believe, my feeling is that, personally, blah, those are used over and over again. Get rid of that completely. Don't make it too evident that you used a thesaurus. So you need to use a thesaurus, but don't make it seem like your whole paper has been translated into this language that nobody understands. I don't know how many of you are Friends fans, that TV show Friends, but there's an episode where Joey decides to write that letter for Monica and Chandler, and it's clear he used a thesaurus for everything, so that by the end, the letter he written makes no sense, right? You don't want to be Joey. So use the thesaurus critically. Do use creative literary devices of your own. We've been studying literary devices. This is a chance to actually begin using them. Use metaphors, use similes, use powerful diction, right? You want to use literary devices in this assignment. This is kind of a creative writing assignment. So use those powers that we've been studying in your own work. Okay. Here are some quick don'ts of the personal essay. Don't let others, especially your parents and teachers, help you decide what to write about. This is for you. You can only write about something personal if it is determined personally. right? You don't necessarily, while you can ask us for advice and you want us to ask, I'm thinking about this one or this one, don't let us determine for you. It's very easy to let parents decide for you, and teachers too, okay? This one's very important. Don't be afraid to admit that you're full of questions, you have insecurities, or that you don't know it all. Remember, you are going to college to learn. You don't know it all yet. In fact, if someone gets an essay that is trying to prove that they know it all, that's going to be very off-putting. It's almost like, well, why do you need to go to college if you're taking on this tone that you know it all, right? Some of the best essays are rooted in vulnerability. They're rooted in insecurity. Maybe that's an awesome prompt. What is your biggest insecurity and why is it an insecurity, right? Um, think about think about addressing those insecurities and making them kind of maybe the star of your paper, because that'll really help and set you up for a successful paper. Don't appear overly idealistic. So while everyone wants world peace, you don't need to write that in the personal statement. You also don't want to be preachy, right? Men need to treat women better. While that's true, that's a general statement, right? We don't want to put that in your personal statement. That becomes too general and not specific. Couple more don'ts. Don't waste your time explaining low grades, low test scores, low GPAs, low class ranks. This is not the space to excuse yourself and say, I did not score well in my ACT because A, B, and C, right? Blah. You don't want to do that. There's no time for that. This needs to take on a completely different example, okay? This personal statement does. Also, don't write something that might embarrass the reader or feel uncomfortable. Address sensitive issues, but respectfully. Okay, so don't isolate your reader. This isn't the time to bring out things that maybe you haven't talked about to anyone at all, right? That's for a counselor or a teacher or a therapist or someone who's going to help you more specifically. No true confessions in your personal statement. Some do's. What should you do? Do write honestly, write vulnerably, and write about what you know. If you do that, it's going to be great writing, especially if you write vulnerably, right? If you're kind of scared about what you're writing or what you're going to write about, that's when you know it's good writing. Do convey a positive overall message about yourself. You want to end on a positive note. Who are you in a positive light, right? Avoid bitterness, sarcasm, aggressiveness, or boasting. Those are all negative feelings. You don't want to end on those. Do strive for depth, not breadth. Remember that you only have 500 words. Really jump into one specific example or detail and explore it as far as you can. Lastly, do write about something you feel strongly about, right? You want to write about your passion. You want your good writing to come across. You want that passion to come across in your good writing, okay? Some final tips. You want to go to so if you know that there's a certain college you want to go to their application. Make sure that they don't have, or make sure you're aware of their specific prompts. If you're noticing that, this college has this kind of prompt, this college has this prompt, and they're both related, write just one essay and submit that essay to both colleges, right? You don't need to write essays for every single college, especially if there are commonalities. Okay, so save yourself some time by doing a little bit of research. Don't try too hard to be funny, just be real. I've read lots of essays where people thought they were funny and it just didn't work, right? Just came off as awkward. Be real, be authentic, be vulnerable, be you. Short is better than long. That's self-explanatory. So the essay that's being asked of you to write, that they're asking you to write, it involves writing, right? It is not video journalism, it is not drawing, it is not cartooning, singing, or even poetry. The admissions boards wants to see that you can successfully and powerfully string sentences together. This is also a writing sample. They want to see your ability to write. It is not just a chance for you to be creative and kind of floopy with who you are. Okay, so make sure that you are doing your writing correctly. Have your peers edit your work. That's important. You can have other peers look at this. And lastly, you can turn in a draft to me by my due date that I will put on Google Classroom, and that can also help you. Okay? So those were just some general tips in regards to how you could potentially be writing a great personal statement. If you follow some of those tips, you're going to have a pretty good draft, if not a final draft of your personal statement. One thing I'll advise is that if you look at the samples I provided, you'll see that all of those samples on Google Classroom, the 2 sample essays that I provided, they follow everything I've said here, right? Those are some great samples. If you got your personal statements to look like those samples and followed my advice here, you are in great shape, okay? All right, happy writing, and I wish the best of luck to you all.